Netanyahu blamed the U.S. for stalling weapons shipments from the U.S. to Israel. The Biden administration reacted strongly to the video. Now, with me in studio to discuss this is Marc Schulman, editor-in-chief at History Central and a columnist for Newsweek. Now, Marc, we know that the story is not always the story. The U.S. is denying that there was a reason behind this. Is there perhaps smoke without fire, or is there something
There's a
more?
teeny fire, but it's mostly smoke. Let's keep in mind something at the very beginning. Defense Minister Gallant was scheduled, and I think is still going to Washington either tomorrow or Sunday to meet with Defense Department officials. So any issues that might exist in the area of arms shipment would clearly be taken care of by Gallant or worked on by Gallant. There was absolutely no reason for the public statement. I've heard some rumors that there may be arms slowing down. I don't really know if that's true. We certainly don't need additional arms to finish in Gaza. I mean, the statement he made today was completely ridiculous. I mean, we need big 2,000-pound bombs at this point in the Gaza war? Absolutely not. So that's just a smoke screen. Look, Netanyahu is in a place right now where for 4 months he was promising, we go to Rafah, we finish the war will be over as soon as we finish with Rafah.
Right.
The army is saying it's another week, 2 weeks maximum till we finish with Rafah. Clearly the war is not going to be over when we finish Rafah. So we need a scapegoat at this point, and I think he's using the Americans as a scapegoat. I don't think it's going to work very well. He's used other scapegoats.
That sounds risky at this point.
It's more than risky. It's insane from Israel's standpoint. He's taking a very dangerous path. I mean, you can make the argument that he's going with, let me go with Trump, okay? I'll take an outside chance that Trump will become president, and here I'm going to be doing something.
Still risky.
It's incredibly risky, because leaving aside whether Trump is going to be elected or not, he will not take office until the end of January. I mean, the president of the United States is Joseph Biden until January 20th. We needed America between now and January 20th. So undermining the current president and creating an enemy of the current president makes no sense whatsoever.
Right, so you're talking about Netanyahu's possible motives here. What about the U.S.? Could they be sending a message with this delay, reminding the Israelis to hold off on the north?
I think there's something to that, obviously. Look, the 2,000-pound bombs were originally stopped because of the destruction they were causing to homes in Gaza, and the United States was saying that Israel shouldn't use these big bombs anymore, and it was together with another shipment of other bombs. I understand a ship full of American arms left the United States a couple of days ago heading for Israel. Ships carry an awful lot of arms in them. But yes, the United States does not want Israel to take action right now in Lebanon, because it's asking the same question it asked about Gaza. What is your strategic plan for what's going to happen? Right. And Israel is not really able to give a good plan. It's going to win the war. Well, what does that mean? And again, the same problem we have in Gaza. And the United States does not want a wider war. I mean, you can make the argument that Biden doesn't want a wider war before the election, and sure, that's absolutely true. No president of the United States wants to be dealing with wars. He already has a war in Ukraine. He's had this war. He doesn't need another headache before the November elections. But besides that, the United States, the only way we're going to win that war, quote unquote, is if we have to destroy Lebanon. Lebanon is a semi-ally of the United States in some forms. The United States gives aid to Lebanon.
Hezbollah.
Well, Hezbollah is part of Lebanon. It gets complicated.
But it's not the same.
It's not exactly the same. And so you have to say, the United States wants to say, Israel's not been listening to us so much, so okay, we'll give them a little sign. We'll send the arms a little bit slower. But let's keep in mind the fact, it's not like we don't have any arms. It's not like we don't make any arms. And on top of everything else, if anyone remembers, at the very beginning of the war, Prime Minister Netanyahu said we have to have a major effort to start building explosives here in Israel. There's a worldwide shortage of explosives caused by the Ukrainian war. I don't know about you, I've heard nothing in the 8 months since then of us doing anything to make us more independent in that area. 8 months is a relatively reasonable amount of time for a high-tech country like us to overcome some of these problems. And so we're stuck. We're reliant on the United States much more than we ever were in any war before. And we have to realize that. And if that's the case, we have to listen a little bit. And unfortunate, I mean, and not that I'm against the policy, but we should be free to do whatever we want because we're a sovereign state, but that's not the real world.
Right, and Netanyahu really presented this as him taking care of Israel's interests. Do you think that that's the case?
No, I don't think he's taking care of his. He's taking care of his own personal political interests at this point. I don't see how this works to Israel's interest. Keep in mind the fact that, A, Dermer is in Washington right now, together with Hanegbi, the National Security Advisor, and the Minister for Special Affairs. And then on top of which, like I said, Gallant, the Defense Minister, is going to Washington in the next couple of days. These are the people who will be able to take care of this more than anything else. Things like this are always done privately. They're not done publicly. On top of everything else, by quoting what Anthony Blinken, Secretary of State, said to him in a private discussion, that's something that's not done. So there is no possible reason for him to do this other than, like I said, A, trying a long ball to Trump and somehow hoping that's going to work, or B, the United States is responsible. I'm not responsible. Rafiq didn't succeed because we didn't get the arms we need. But obviously, our problem in Rafiq is not that we're not capturing it. We're getting all of Rafiq, taking a little bit longer. We're getting all of Rafiq. Right. But the problem is that once we get Rafiq, everyone who was in Rafiq went to Khan Yunis, or went to the central camps, or went somewhere else.
And the problem is also what happens the day after the
We have no plan. I wrote, before we even went into the ground operation, I said, we need a plan for the day after. War.
Right. More and more voices are saying that.
Well, okay, but it's 8 months later. It's impossible we don't have a plan for war the day after. The fact that Netanyahu came up with some sort of ridiculous idea of something that could be 8 months in 8 months plus is an absurdity. I mean, the Ministry of Defense has been asking since the second month of the war, desperately, where do you want us to go? What's going to take over when we leave? If you don't have something to take over when you leave, you're going to lose. I mean, look, war is an extension of politics by another means. There's the politics side. Without the politics side, you can't win a war. Right. And this is what's a tragedy here. We've won the war on the ground. Our soldiers have given their lives. They fought valiantly. We can outfight.
They're still fighting.
They're fighting every day, and we can outfight Hamas without a problem. However, unless we have 500,000 troops that can occupy all of Gaza at one time, maybe that way we could finally finish up with Hamas. We don't have 500,000 troops in our army. We can't do it.
All right, Marc Schulman, thank you very much for your input, and